everyone, and welcome to The Art Doctor. My name is Nancy Langham-Hooper, PhD, art historian, and cultural enthusiast, ready to use the great art of the world to help you out. Today, 2020. Usually just a number or perhaps a description of perfect eyesight, I think we can all agree that the year of our Lord 2020 was a problem, a nightmare, or a dumpster fire even. But why do we call it a dumpster fire? Well, dumpsters aren't very pleasant. They smell, they're an eyesore, and we just keep them around to collect all the crap we need to get rid of, or perhaps any evidence we might need to hide. How could it possibly get worse? That's right, set the thing on fire. By the way, you can watch this cute little dumpster fire Yule log for like 10 hours on YouTube. Link below. You're welcome. So when we use dumpster fire as a descriptive term, we're talking about a situation that we thought couldn't get worse until it did. And that was 2020 for most of the world.
Surely this couldn't get any worse. Oh, wait.
During the holidays, I sat down with my family and we made a list of everything that made 2020 so horrible. Turns out it was a very long list. So long, in fact, that I can't actually discuss the whole thing here, but I will put it on my Facebook page for your perusal and comments. Link in the description box below. However, we can narrow 2020 down to 4 distinct dumpster fires. We've got climate change destroying stuff, the government's going nationalist and giving in to their white supremacist urges and destroying stuff, like democratic norms, the European Union, and sensible science-based policy, for example. A horrible pandemic has ripped through the whole world and destroyed a lot of stuff, like lives, economies, that kind of thing. And don't forget the murder hornets. And in our own lives, we feel the effect of these dumpster fires. Whether we're run off our feet trying to keep COVID patients alive in hospital, fighting never-ending bushfires, trying our darndest to impeach Cheeto Mussolini, again, or simply trying to do a productive day's work while your kids run semi-feral. And perhaps 2020 has been crueler to you. Maybe you lost a loved one or fought off the coronavirus. Perhaps you battled depression, loneliness, or anxiety. Maybe you had a relationship break down in the heat of multiple dumpster fires. 2020 was a disaster on top of a catastrophe, garnished with a sprig of humanity's worst instincts. It was a year that changed our lives forever, and yet kept us all painfully in one place. What a paradox, to be so confined that you feel helpless, and yet see the chaos outside. How could it get any worse? Until it does. Friends, no artwork in existence can contain all of the traumas and feelings and general insanity of this year. I did think of Bosch because if there was ever a year for his flavor of painting, it's 2020. But there is an artist who understood what it's like to be trapped in a dumpster fire, and her name was Frida. Actually, her name was Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderon, but we just call her Frida. She is one of Mexico's and the world's greatest artists. She was born in 1907 in the boho neighborhood of Coyoacan in Mexico City. You can still visit her house, Casa Azul, where she was born, lived most of her life, and died. Frida had a lifelong and tempestuous romance with Diego Rivera, a renowned and internationally famous muralist, whom she married in 1929 when he was 43 and she was only 22. After many infidelities, the couple divorced in 1939, but ended up remarrying in 1940. Frida was a nurturing person. Though unable to have children herself, a fact that was always painful to her, she showered her motherly affection on her stepchildren, nieces and nephews, pets, and even her garden. She was a sexual person, having passionate affairs with both men and women. She was a political person. A devoted and active member of the Communist Party, she was fascinated with Mexico's pre-colonial past, collecting Aztec artifacts and early historical documents that described their culture. She was also a disabled person. Frida struggled with her health her whole life. After childhood polio left her limping, a horrific bus accident when she was 18 shattered her spine and pelvis, leaving her bedridden and in pain for months. Yet it was at that time that she began to draw and paint, and the accident spurred on a self-reflection that would define her work. She became famous for her fearless self-portraits, in which she used her own image and everyday objects to describe her inner life. Even after she was able to get out of bed after the bus accident, her body was broken and painful. Over the years, she had many surgeries to correct her spine. Some of these were successful, and others just made the situation worse. Dumpster fires? This woman knew all about dumpster fires. She lived with chronic pain nearly her whole life. In fact, her art and her disability are so intertwined, it would be impossible to pull them apart. She doesn't shy away from this in her self-portraits, which are probably her most famous works. In fact, out of 143 paintings she created in her lifetime, 55 were self-portraits. Now, portraits are in general different from, say, random photographs of a person. A good portrait shows the inside on the outside. Does that make sense? We don't just see what that person looked like, but get to understand, just through looking at their likeness, who they were and what it would have been like to be in their presence. Of course, sometimes these are total lies, but hey, it's not like Instagram invented deceptive self-marketing. But I especially love self-portraits. Here, it's the artists themselves who shows you who they are, and they show you using the thing that is closely linked to their identity, their artistic skill. In my opinion, self-portraits are the most intimate art of all. So here's an intimate look at our friend Frida. Painted in 1943, when she was in her mid-30s, Self-Portrait with Monkeys was done at a time of intense chronic pain. The artist shows herself as a woman flushed with life, the large leaves of a bird of paradise plant filling the shallow background behind her. It's not a perfect plant. The leaf above her head has an unsightly burnt hole, and the leaves, instead of being a vibrant green, have a rusty color indicating malnourishment. The gorgeous blue and orange flower, looking like a bird, faces away from her just behind her head. Yeah, I hear you say. But what about the monkeys? 4 spider monkeys surround her. One sits on her arm, another grabs over her shoulder, and 2 sit in the foliage behind her, watching intently. Frida and Diego had 2 pet spider monkeys they kept at Casa Azul, and many of her portraits of this period include their cheeky faces. Frida is wearing a hupil, a traditional Aztec blouse, with a rectangular square underneath the neckline. Inside it, the Aztec symbol for earthquake. But after all this detail, let's look at the most important part, Frida herself. Her hair is piled on top of her head in her own iconic style, reminiscent of Mexican folk art. Her broad forehead shows off her trademark unibrow, which always, to me, looks like a bird. Frida was defiantly feminine at a time when that monobrow and the peach fuzz above her lip were not considered feminine at all. For contrast, here is the fashionable brow of 1943. Though perhaps not fashionable, Frida paints herself as beautiful. And through her stunning self-portraits, she became beautiful to the world. So what does all this mean then? What is she trying to say about herself in this particular self-portrait? Well, we don't know for sure, but we can take a few guesses. By the way, artists rarely leave us art historians with documentation about their intentions. And so when we do find a letter in the archives that says, oh, this means this and this means that, and this is what I was hoping to go for, we nearly fall out of our chairs with joy. Frida has left us several clues to her inner life in this image. The plant, a bird of paradise, is looking a little worse for wear. Could this be a reference to Frida's own hopes for the future? Her paradise that haven't come off the way she'd hoped? No children, chronic pain, and a consistently unfaithful Diego were hardly part of the plan. Then there are the monkeys, 4 of them, completely surrounding her. Now there's one theory of who these monkeys are. Some say they could represent Frida's students. It was in this year, 1943, that her talents were finally recognized and she became a teacher at the La Esmeralda National School of Painting and Sculpture. However, because of health problems, she soon had to teach from home. This decreased her class sizes until she only had 4 devoted pupils left. They called themselves Los Fridos. However, I think these monkeys are something much more sinister than devoted students. They tug at her blouse and wrap their tails around her arms. They seem cute, but they are invasive, annoying, cloying, like monkeys can be. They restrict her movement. They're waiting behind her and holding her back. The shallow space she stands in seems like a little prison, no going anywhere. And yet, at the center of it all, a symbol for earthquake, for movement, change, destruction. So there's a paradox here. The monkey points to it, in fact. Huge, life-altering movement and the stifling of any momentum. So how would you feel if your world was torn open, broken up like an earthquake tears at the ground, and yet you could go nowhere, do nothing but watch, feel your pain, and watch your dreams slowly die of malnourishment? Now do you see why this is art for 2020? Because this year has given us the same painful paradox. Our world has come out from under our feet in so many different ways. Our lives are nothing like they were before. And yet, those same life-altering instigators keep us in place. Those annoying monkeys don't let us move. I didn't plan it this way, but there are 4 monkeys and 4 dumpster fires, so it could work as an interpretation, I guess. Climate change, nationalism, murder hornets, and the pandemic change our reality, even as they keep us helpless in the face of them. Our dreams of our future, our pictures of our ideal lives wither in that smelly inferno. So what can we do? How can we deal with this awfulness? Well, Frida gives us the answer to that too. Look at her face. She confidently gazes at the viewer, not afraid to meet our eye and show us all her pain. Because there is pain in her face, and sadness. Yet what shines above all that emotion is defiance. Those eyes, they aren't broken and beaten. Her chin is up, her head held high. She isn't helpless in the face of this. She is still obstinately herself. She's as brave and strong as a person could be, even with the endless annoying monkeys hanging all around her, earthquakes rocking her very core, and dreams withering in the blistering sun. I don't want to put words into Frida's mouth, but I think if this portrait could talk, it would say, "Don't let the bastards get you down." So let's all keep Frida in our minds as we head into 2021, which already looks like it has its share of monkeys. Let's be as brave, defiant, and obstinately beautiful as we can possibly be. Well, I hope that helped you to feel less alone with all the dumpster fires 2020 has given us. As always, if you'd like to know more about anything we've talked about, I've put a bunch of links in the description box below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or, smash subscribe and ding the bell or whatever all the YouTubers say. I post a video every Friday. I always enjoy your comments, so please consider subscribing, and that's it. Okay, deep breath. You got this. I'll see you next time.